everybody by their first name. Feels good to be around.
All right, welcome back to Pints and Politics, episode 14. Representative Heath Sessions, Representative Brandon Guffey here. And today's episode's brought to us by, of course, as always, Comer Distributing. And today's pint, I picked it out because I thought that it would be I thought it was very fitting.
Today's beer is Grape Shasta.
It looks like a Grape Shasta at the top, that's for sure.
If you can take a look. When I poured this in this plastic cup, I was like,
He
what?
said, I thought you said this was good. I'm like, it is good.
Yeah, tell us about it, man.
Excuse me. So this beer is by Slow Play Brewery, Rock Hill Brewery, and it uses honey and lavender. It's brewed specifically for the Yo Co Brew Trail. And for those that aren't in York County, it is Visit York County that puts this on, and it's called the Yo Co Brew Trail for York County Brew Trail. And they use the honey and lavender from Five Blossoms Farm and Clover, South Carolina. So this is a Lavender Yo Co Buzz is what it is called. It's 5.3% alcohol. I actually like it. I tried it. I got a little worried about getting some sour beer, and the purple threw me off a little bit. But
I think if I was drinking out of a can, it wouldn't have been so. But yeah, I mean, it's got that floral. Anyone familiar with lavender and soap or anything else, it's got that floral sort of lightness to it. Yeah. But it other than in a tad sweet on the back end.
Yeah.
But
don't really taste sugary. It's that honey sweet.
Yep, that's right.
And for, the Yo Co Brew Trail, the way it works for those who ever want to participate, you can go to visityorkcounty.com and you pick up a Yo Co Brew Trail passport at any Yo Co Brew Trail brewery or at the Visit York County Center. You set your Yo Co Brew Trail itinerary. You visit at least 10 listed Yo Co Brew Trail locations. You have your passport stamped with each brewery. And then you visit the York County Visitor Center to get your free custom I Drank My Way Through York County Yo Co Brew Trail t-shirt. And the participating breweries, Amore Artists, which we've had here before.
Several.
Courtney's Brewery is in the back of Courtney's Barbecue in Clover.
What?
I haven't tried it. I have been out to Courtney's, but I didn't know that they had the brewery there.
They use the fat off the pork butt.
Lake Wiley Brewing Company in Rock Hill. Legal Remedy Brewery, which that's now changed to...
The Wanderer.
The Wanderer. Middle James...
But it still has Legal Remedy Brewery in the back, but the Wanderer is the restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, go by and see Murphy over there, man. Good dude, great new ownership.
Middle James Brewing, which is in the new...
Yep.
The powerhouse that the city of Rock Hill built over there by the event center.
And if you like a Kolsch beer, go by and check out Middle James's Kolsch. It is a great warm weather beer. It's awesome.
I don't even know what a Kolsch is.
Just take
I'll take your word for it. Model A Brewing and TK, which that's a great place. I've met the owners there a few times. Off the Tracks Brewing. The Print Shop, which is right down the road from Memorial.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Replay Brewing, which Replay Brewing should give us a good shout out considering we just made pinball legal.
Yeah, that's right over there in Kingsley.
Rock Hill Brewing Company, downtown Rock Hill, and then Slow Play Brewing. And there's another one on here. It says Untamed Waters. Do you know where that one is?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
I haven't heard of that one. And then they also list an additional stops if you're feeling extra. And they talk about the Sleeping Giant Distillery. You can attest to that place.
That's great rum.
Windy Hill Orchard and Cider Mill, which every time I'm coming back from the mountains, especially whenever it's time, I got to stop and get some of them donuts.
Oh, man. I try to make it out to their oyster roast every year.
I haven't been to it.
Oh, man. It's so good. Yeah, because the donuts, the beer, burn barrels. Yeah, it's great.
Man, they've got everything on here. I was going to go through it, but I'm not even going to go through all of it.
I tell you what. I
love the local collaboration, though, with using the local sourced honey and lavender, the local brewery, and the local distributor, and everything being put together.
I mean, think about it. When I moved to York County, it was 2006, I believe.
Yankee.
And yeah, I went north to get here. But when I first got here, you know where you went out to eat? McHale's and Thursdays too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you're born and raised here, so you know how. I mean, this place is
Thursdays too is where the Republican Party meetings used to be at.
But I mean, Rock Hill and just the greater York County area, man, is just grew so much in the past decade. I mean, you just named off a dozen breweries. I mean,
It
who
still
knew?
seems like you can't ever figure out what to eat whenever you want to get something to eat, though, right? I mean, we've got all these different restaurants, and
Yeah, man.
it's sad to see some things come up and then they just go out
Yeah.
very quickly.
But yeah, so the beer's interesting. I could probably drink one of them.
I think I like it. It's a low alcohol content, which is similar to what I typically drink.
I'm about to say, yeah, Coors
Slow
Light's got
Play.
5.2, 5.3, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a normal beer.
I think I got a bad Coors Light in Hilton Head, so I'm not drinking any more Coors Light.
That's just water.
I think
anyway.
I think it was a green beer, but I did not feel very well afterwards, so
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not.
And
drinking
also, want to give a talk about our other sponsor, 742 North here,
Yep.
hosting the podcast here. And like I said, if you need workspace, desk space, Wi-Fi, or just a good cup of coffee,
Yeah.
check out 742 North right here on Anderson Road. So
We might have a quiet podcast today.
Hey.
There's no bands or church service or anything else. going
Elvis has left the building, you know. But yeah, so how was your week, man? Last time we left, you were about to head out and go to
Yeah.
Hilton Head, celebrate Cohen's birthday.
I
Turned
went down
18.
there. I drove the old 78 Jeep down. That way Cohen and his friend could drive it around the island if they wanted to. Went down there the day one. Of course, you know, you kind of get settled in. Day two, ended up meeting up with Representative Jeff Bradley.
Oh, yeah.
Went down. He's got a boat down in Harbor Town. So he was able to go out on his boat, drive it out to
Tybee?
Tybee Island.
Yep.
And then back towards the Sound and down in the marsh and everything, then come back, park it. But that was a nice event for me and the older boys to do.
Yeah.
And just kind of hung out, did a bunch of different things, you know. And then we played golf yesterday. We got on to a golf course. I'm trying to Heron Point in
nice.
Hilton Head, which is typically pretty expensive, but we was able to get in there.
How was the game? A little
Oh,
rusty?
horrible. Like we didn't even play 18
Yeah.
because one of the guys we were playing with, David, who's actually younger than me, he's having to have a full hip replacement. He tried stem cell therapy.
Yeah.
But he's always been into working out and everything, and his hips just messed
Really?
up. So he's going in for hip replacement surgery this
Wow.
week. And so I was more worried about him tapping out first, and I was going to rag on him in a little bit about it. But no, I was like, yeah, I'm done. My shoulder's killing me. You can only hit the ground so many times. And, you know, you're very paranoid at nice courses. You want to make
Right.
sure you keep it.
Yeah, that they keep refill sand on the cart, and Guffey's running out by like hole 3.
I just loop my belt and just hang it to the side and carry it with me.
Guffey's round. He runs out of beer and sand on hole 3.
No, I didn't do the beer.
That's good.
Yeah, at the whole time down there, I bought 1 6-pack of Coors Light.
Yeah,
and
one of them being bad.
I drank. Well, I only drank one,
Oh,
and then got sick, and I was like, nope, no alcohol, not
Yeah.
doing this.
yeah,
So it's pretty much Mountain Dew and water.
gotcha.
Tons of water though.
Yep.
So how
Yeah,
about
man,
your week?
I sort of live vicariously through our group texts and things like that. You being on the boat with Jeff Bradley. You know, I think I touched on it last episode about, man, Ben, my son Ben, he's 9 years old. Man, got a bad case of pneumonia. So, you know, I had to take off early Wednesday morning during session, had to leave. I got to the hospital. He was intubated at about 5 a.m. Wednesday morning up at Levine's. Breathing tube, feeding tube, went on a vent. So, you know, it was he was fine. His vitals were fine, but it was still, you don't like seeing your kids, and
Right.
you know, but Saturday he turned a corner, was able to pull the feeding tube, all the tubes out. And then got him back home Thursday morning. So he is
You
still
spent Easter in the hospital.
I did. Yeah, he literally was in the hospital from Wednesday to Thursday. Most of his spring break was shot, and yeah, Easter for him and I was streaming Oakland Baptist Easter service.
Nice.
And I just laid in the bed with him while we watched it.
And he's good now, back home?
Yep, back home. He's got a follow-up appointment tomorrow and should be back at school on Tuesday.
Awesome, man.
So yeah. I tell you, man, you know that phrase, when it rains, it pours? So we get Ben back on Thursday. I got to run up to D.C. for a dinner and stuff for work. I get back Friday. Saturday, we got Miracle League. Have lunch at Ebenezer. Get back to the house. I run an errand downtown, and I'm on the way back. Emma, I see my daughter, FaceTime audio, and I'm like, this is not good. Answer the phone. I said, yep. She was like, Asher's having a seizure. And I'm like, call 911. She was like, yeah, that's what Mom said. I said, hang up with me. I'll be there in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And but I got there. I tell you, ladder 2 fire truck pulls up. I get him in. Ambulance gets there. They check his vitals. You know, he comes out of the seizure. It's a few minutes. But so, yeah, man, you know, it's just one of those things where you're like, just when you think you're rounding a corner and getting out of the woods, so to speak, and then it's something else.
Right back.
So, but I tell you, I needed church service this morning. I will say that much. And
I
literally,
needed it too and missed it.
We are literally reading out of Matthew 11, I think it was verse 28 or something. And literally the verse is talking about Jesus talking to his disciples about, you know, take off your yoke. I'll give you rest. I'll give you true rest and peace and all these things. I'm like, hallelujah, this is speaking to me this week. You know?
Right up your alley.
So, yeah, I mean, it was a rough week, man, but it ain't going to keep us down for sure. But
well, my one thing I did, well, 2 things first this week on Hilton Head, or on Easter in Hilton Head. Callie had his bike with him, and he wanted to learn how to ride a bike. So as a dad, you do what you always do, and you kind of run behind it, you know, bent over. Well, I'm mid-40s now. Back does not feel good running behind a bike.
And it's just
and trying to keep
it's crouching a little, you know?
And dadgummit, if he's not a Guffey, he's a little overachiever pedaling 100 miles an hour that I can barely keep up running behind.
Bye, Callie.
And I was like, all right, buddy, you got to stop. My back's not going to last this long.
Yeah.
And Melissa just looked over. She's like, Callahan. She's like, you remember how you did on the ballast bike? And he's like, yeah. She's like, can you touch the sides? And granted, she's just standing over at the sidewalk watching.
No, she's like, over there laughing.
She's like, go. And he just takes off and starts riding. I'm like, dadgummit, my back's going to hurt for 2 days.
Yeah, right.
So
hey,
then he was
Melissa,
riding.
you could have told me this 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. And then it was the first time I was able to play around the golf with Cohen. I've never played around the golf with my boys.
Wow.
I'm not a big golfer.
Yeah, right. I think we talked about this like on a prior
I
episode.
just feel like so much time.
It is.
But I don't relax doing it.
Hey, but you know, the 19th is coming soon.
Yes. The virtual golf, I think I can do.
You can play 18 holes in about an hour and a half.
You don't have to worry about going out with somebody that gets drunk, wants to start ramming carts and all this other crap. Like that's usually what does it. No, not me. No. I'm too competitive to get like wasted on a golf course. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I just can't do the stupid stuff.
Well, so yeah, man.
Not on a golf course. Any other time, stupid stuff I'm okay with.
I hear you. So yeah, that's our week. I mean, we got
lots of drama locally.
Man,
do we want to start off with the sheriff's race?
Yeah,
the
let's go.
Gate, or
let's go in and talk about filing period ended this past Monday.
Yes,
April 1st at noon, and there was a little bit of buzz going around about the sheriff's race because I think you or someone did a screen grab and sent it to me, and
I thought it was an April Fool's joke.
For the 2 listeners, correct. You and I both thought it was an April Fool's joke that someone had put, So let's tell the 2 listeners what we're talking about.
All right. So just to give a little history in York County for those that aren't in York County, Sheriff Bruce Bryant, who I took over his house seat, was sheriff here previously for 20 years.
Yeah, 96 to 2016.
So 20 years, he was the sheriff. Whenever it come time for him to retire before he ran for the House, he decided he was going to retire. His son-in-law had his endorsement and ran for sheriff. His son-in-law is Sheriff Kevin Tolson, who is our current sheriff, and has been sheriff for 8 years. Now, Kevin Tolson married Bruce Bryant's daughter, Beth Bryant Tolson. She has been in law enforcement her entire life, raised by a sheriff, married a sheriff. And
I think when Bruce was sheriff and Kevin and Beth were married, one of them had to go to the solicitor's office and be an investigator over there because of the potential conflict of interest or whatever.
Right? I don't know that.
And then
far
when
back.
Kevin ran, something like that.
Yeah, but Kevin Tolson is highly regarded in the area. Kevin is a great fiscal conservative. He stepped into, drama right away, handled it professionally,
and he's an advocate with us on judicial reform.
Yep,
just as Kevin Brackett is. I mean, it's
been an advocate.
He's done
with
a great
mental
job.
health, and that is his passion, is trying to increase mental health. So whenever I seen both of them filed, immediately I got a few phone calls. And so I decided I would call him and find out what was going on. And whenever I called, I said, "Is this an April Fool's joke?" He's like, "That'd be an expensive April Fool's joke," And he said, "No." And he said, "I know the optics aren't good, but honestly, what happened is I got, just as you have a mission in life with me wanting to go out and stop cyber crimes and promote teenage mental health."
Yeah.
His mission is trying to increase mental health services with law enforcement, and he helped set that up in South Carolina, where he got the opportunity to start to take this on a national level and start to bring it to other states. And he said that came in late that week, and they talked about it, and he felt like he needed to follow his passion. So whenever they went up, Beth said, "I'll run for sheriff." They went in, and they filed that day. Now, what I'm being told was that he asked at that time,
Could he withdraw?
Can I withdraw? And he was told that, yes, you just need to send an email. Well, according to the way, and I will pull up
the reg on it.
The actual reg, it says, if after the closing of the time for filing the documents required pursuant to this section, there are not more than 2 candidates for any one office, and one or more of the candidates dies, withdraws, the state or the county committee, as the case may be, if the nomination is by political party primary or political party convention only, may, in its discretion, afford the opportunity for the entry of other candidates for the office involved.
Okay, so it gives a little bit of latitude to this being a local sheriff's race.
Yes.
So the reg or the law does allow, I think it says afforded some flexibility.
So the York County GOP, which is the Republican Party that represents York County on the state level, they have the ability to open this up.
Okay.
If they want to allow additional candidates. And there were so many phone calls, not only myself, the former chair of the party, he called because he was getting tons of calls.
Right.
And, I'm not following up on all this. And everyone that would call me, my point was like, look, I understand the optics are bad.
Yeah.
But, Beth is going to make a great sheriff. But there was just speaking honestly, I had over a dozen phone calls from people in law enforcement.
Yeah.
That would be working under Beth.
Yep.
If she's sheriff. And therein lies the problem, is the optics and the public trust of feeling like you've had 28 years in the family and now you're talking about adding on another 4 years of basically just handing it off instead of it being open. Because there's many people that would not file to run against Kevin, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't file to run against Beth.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this prior to the cameras coming on, and, I said, look, I like and respect Kevin. We know him personally. I don't know Beth personally.
I know Beth, and I love Beth.
But everyone I've talked to said, yeah, she'll make a great sheriff too. And I believe the folks who told me, I trust. I think this is just an optics issue.
Yes.
It's a perception. And, both can be true. They could have had all of these things fall into place. Beth wanted to run, but was always supporting her husband.
Correct.
Her husband got a great job offer. And made
to pursue his passion.
Correct. And that made him reconsider him filing for sheriff. And so she was like, well, if you're not going to run, then I'm going to run.
Yeah.
So I think probably what's going to play out is the local party has some decisions to make, but I could see the local GOP opening it up for another week or 72 hours or something that is reasonable to allow, if there are any other serious candidates to file, and then let Beth, and, if she runs unopposed, great.
I mean, I've had numerous, and just as with any election, you always have people say, well, I'm going to run. I'm going to run.
Yeah, right.
I've had numerous people, but there's one person, and probably the only person that would make it hard for me to support Beth over anyone else, and that's Heath Clevenger, who led SWAT. He was part of the Mike Doty incident. He has always been a man of strong character. If he was to run, it would make it very difficult. But Heath is always black and white. Like, I forget that name, that sheriff that's the real hard ass. That's going to tell you exactly the way it is.
Arpaio or Arpaio out in Arizona from years ago.
But, I mean,
he'd have prisoners in, like, pink pajamas.
Yeah. Heath is kind of that type of guy. Okay. Everything's very black and white, raised like straight out of high school, went into law enforcement. Yep. I mean, this has been his path his entire life. And with him doing that, it would make it difficult if he decides to run. Now, if it doesn't open up, which honestly, I'll be surprised if the York County GOP opens it up, because I believe they love Tolson so much. However, it's hard to say that if there was no intent there, then why wouldn't it open up? And I don't think that anyone's going to win or stands a chance as independent. I truthfully, I don't know that anybody could beat Beth, even if it was opened up.
I don't even know if it is. I think the right thing to do is to reopen it.
Yes.
Right? Because obviously, listen, Kevin and Beth are spouses. Yes. Obviously, Beth knew something no one else did prior to the filing period closing. And so you need to allow a level playing field for any other candidate considering. And then, Beth, go whoop whoever's ass wants to file against you.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I mean, and if you've got Kevin's endorsement and Bruce's endorsement,
and if I was Beth, I'm not running from this.
Right.
I don't want people to second guess my credibility.
Yeah.
I don't want them to second guess. You let someone run against me and I'll whoop their ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll take it to the voters. I will take my character and my resume to the voters.
I'm going to prove I was chosen by the people.
That's right. Because I would not want to walk into office with that doubt.
Right.
You know what I mean? Hanging over me. Nope. Let's mulligan this. Give anyone a week. Give everyone 72 hours. Whatever is reasonable that the party can come up with. And let's do this. Let's run it back. And I'm going to whoop your ass.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And let's do that.
I agree. All right. So the way I would say look at this is imagine, and I'm going to try to think of, I don't know, somebody in my district, but imagine that I knew I was going to step down because I got an offer to go and pursue my passion.
Yeah, right.
And I took my next door neighbor and said, nobody knows.
Hey, Johnny.
Yeah. And let's go, and I'm going to go ahead and bring you up there, and we'll file at the last minute, and then I'll withdraw afterwards. Everyone would be up in arms.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter that I'm following my passion. It doesn't matter whether Johnny is qualified. It's that perception. And, the first few people that reached out, my comments were, well, if you didn't have the guts to challenge the man, and now you think that you can challenge the woman, then I don't know that I trust that you should be the sheriff to begin with. Mm-hmm. Like, that was my approach to it. Until it's put into perspective of the respect that Tolson has earned and the fear, and I never realized the amount of fear that so many in law enforcement have against going against the Bryant or Tolson name, period. Like, they feel like their career is done if they come out publicly and say something. Now, whenever it comes to Heath, whenever I got elected, me and Clevenger sat down 3 years ago, and he told me, do not say anything. But whenever Tolson is done, I want to run for sheriff.
Okay.
You know, he thought Tolson was going to be there another 4 years, and then he would run then. And the way that he is perceiving this is that, okay, so if Kevin is stepping down, even though it's another Tolson running, it's still not Kevin. Like he was looking at it as being respectful to Kevin,
Yeah, right.
and not challenging him. However, like I said, he's the guy's kind of built for this. You ever seen In the Heat of the Night?
The movie or the
TV show?
series?
The series.
Yeah, I was a kid though.
You always had that deputy on there, Bubba. That's what Heath always reminded me of. He always kind of had that look of Bubba off in The Heat of the Night. But no, I mean, Heath is just as the Tolsons, Beth and Kevin, from what I know of, are strong character. You know, a love for law enforcement. I think Clevenger is as well.
Yeah.
And I think that since he's retired, he's the only one that, in my opinion, might step up. Now, there could be other people come out of the woodwork, but I think it's going to be a uphill battle, whether that is Clevenger or whether that is other candidates
Right.
running against a Tolson or a Bryant last name and trying to overcome that in a 60-day manner.
Yeah.
And especially, but if it's an independent, then I think that it's going to be a huge David versus Goliath. Like if it's not opened up, I believe Clevenger is the type that says, you know, this is what I said I was going to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And while he's more Republican, if he has to, he will run as an independent.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think we'll see over here, you know, the next week.
Yes.
See what happens. I mean, first things first, Kevin's going to have to withdraw.
He already has.
Oh, has he officially?
Yeah. I mean, he's already sent the email. According to McKissick, he withdrew on Tuesday.
Okay.
So that would have been the 2nd.
Yeah.
So he withdrew on Tuesday.
Okay. And no action that you know of from the local party. Yeah.
No, well, they've had meetings.
Okay.
So speaking of, I called our local party chairman, Larry, who we talked about in previous podcasts.
Yeah.
And the emails. But you know, I called him. He did not want to talk to me. I didn't know that they'd already had a meeting. I wasn't paying. Like I'm removed.
Why doesn't
from
he?
the email.
Why doesn't he want to talk to you?
Well, he was just very short, very quiet. And I was just like, you know, my main concern was I don't want people thinking that this is some type of push. This is literally tons of people calling. I mean, I could read messages just off a messenger from people I'm not even friends with.
Yeah.
That are just commenting and sending stuff.
I got a few calls about it, but, you know.
So there was just a lot of people that felt like it. And every single person, I was like, look, I understand it might look bad, but this is what happened. He's following his passion, and gave the spiel. And they all still ended up by saying, yeah, either way. I
mean, I would always suggest to everybody, hey, if y'all seriously have some serious issues with this, you know, you need to call your local party EC or chair.
And most people don't know who that
because
is.
literally that's their lane.
They keep their own little tight knit.
You know?
They don't want outsiders. Somebody was actually telling me that even during the meeting, they were saying something about, you know, we've got swamp in the room, so got to be careful. It's like, they yet to figure out they are the swamp. They're the ones in control.
I don't know.
But
so, yeah,
anyway.
I mean, we'll see. Another thing that happened on this past Thursday was the District 17 Senate debate for the 3 Republican candidates. And man, that was something when I landed coming back from D.C. on Friday. I just checked it out on YouTube. I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the good thing is Senate District 17 right now is the senator who represents that district is Mike Fanning. He's been there for a number of terms. And he's a Democrat, which, again, I'm a political novice. So that always was confusing to me because I'm like, wait a minute. Chester and a little bit of Lancaster County is Democrat.
It's what do they call it? The Blue Dogs?
Yeah,
They just vote
I guess so.
Democrat, just the old farm.
Yep. But so anyway, we had McCoy and Stubbs and TB up there talking about, some of the issues of the day. And here's the good thing. After listening to that, I was like, that's how it should be done. They were throwing out policy and issue-based questions. They all respectfully answered them. They all were very respectful to the other two candidates. And, I think Everett in his closing remarks even said something about, hey, listen, whether y'all vote for me or one of these other guys, someone up here needs to represent this district.
Right.
And it couldn't be more true. So, I mean, they got everything.
And that's what that is what politics has lost. And, that that'll kind of segue into our next one. But instead of Mean Girls, we've gotten into this situation where if you're not with me 100%, then you're the enemy.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
That has been the most frustrating thing.
Yeah. So just on that debate, they got, I'm going to play a little clip here. They got questions about infrastructure spending, roads, and here I'll play this little one about judicial reform. All the candidates got to weigh in on judicial reform.
Okay, so I think it's fitting that the lawyer in the room get the first judicial. No, so listen, y'all. What we have essentially is what's called the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. It's 10 people that are appointed that are essentially electing our judges in the state of South Carolina. That's not right. That's not what the law intends. It was supposed to be, when they created the JMSC, it was supposed to actually be for efficiency purposes. What its intent was if you had 50 candidates to be a judge, we will cull those down to the top 3, pass them on, and let the Joint Assembly then pick the best of those 3. In practicality, that's not what's happening, okay? In practicality, those 10 people are selecting their pick and putting 2 others that don't stand a chance up, and so essentially they're picking our judges in the state, and that's not the way it should be.
He's calling it out.
Yeah. Yep. So I listened to that response in particular, and that's Senate candidate Everett Stubbs. And, he, when he said that, I was like, that is from a perspective of someone who is not in the State House. That's what you hear a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right? That is the conventional wisdom from the man on the street, is that, these folks up there who happen to be lawyer legislators are just
picking the judges.
Yeah, they got their hand on the scale. And that is what's so hard. That's, I think, been our biggest challenge as non-lawyers, trying to talk to some of our lawyer legislator friends and colleagues. That, do you understand the perception of what this is? Because we all get in our bubbles, right? I mean, I'm in sort of construction and some other stuff. Brandon, you do what you do when you got your family. And so everyone gets in their own little bubbles and they have a set of glasses that we all wear and how we perceive the outside world. And lawyer legislators are no different.
Right.
They come from that legal background and they're like, no, that's not what's going on. And I'm like, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but that's the perception.
And I'll say I ran on judicial reform. And until I sat on that judicial reform committee,
right,
and listened to all sides and listened to how everyone else does it, it did change my view a little bit, because you start seeing as trying to be as fair as possible. Now, the JMSC reform, yes, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Magistrate reform, yes, it needs to be done.
100%.
But do we have the worst system? Absolutely not.
Do not.
I mean, by any stretch of the imagination, I'd say we've got one of the top 2 systems. Is there corruption still? Yes.
Or is there potential for corruption or conflict? Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's not perfect.
I should have said that, because if there is corruption, it should be called out. And it should be brought forward.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I was traveling over in the Atlanta area, and guess what I saw? Yard signs for judges everywhere. I mean, that was by far the most political signs I saw was for judges.
And who knows who they're
folks,
voting for on a judge?
And here's the deal. If we were to go to a popular election of judges, the folks who raise the money or the rich candidates who have the most money are going to win.
Right.
You know, and we do not want that system. We don't.
And those are going to be the most powerful attorneys.
Exactly. And then, and again, this is a perception issue, but you get people saying, oh, they just bought that seat. They just bought that bench seat. And here's another thing to consider. Take, for instance, the Fannie Willis Trump case that's going on over there in Fulton County.
That's a partisan election.
Right. All right. So a little background. That judge, and the name escapes me, the judge who's presiding over that case had made a decision that something about a local rapper and some criminal case that came up in front of him. And anyway, this judge made a ruling and it alienated his black support.
Right.
You got to understand, a judge is a elected official now.
So now he's got to win back that public support.
Correct. And
so it's like a ref making a bad call.
I was listening to a podcast that talked about the political ramifications of this judge's decision on the Fannie Willis Trump case. And they said that had to have influenced his decision because he basically did everything but say, y'all need to indict her. She's a criminal. By getting her boyfriend, getting him paid, them going on vacations, and all this crap, right? So that judge basically split the baby because they said and again, they suggested, they're reading the tea leaves, that the reason why he did it was because he needed, if he had of basically kicked her off that case, he would have lost the election.
As
and you do not want judges having to weigh
political ramifications.
Oh, no. Forget that.
Well, and that became my thing to begin with, was judges are supposed to be, along with law enforcement, they're supposed to be above reproach.
Yep.
So there shouldn't be any question. And if I think that a judge is making a decision based on fear that they're not going to get selected by the JMSC, well, then I don't know that I really want them as a judge.
Right.
You know?
The law is first.
As our our counterpart in the State House says, that's an ugly baby.
Yeah. So yeah, I back to that Senate debate. We can talk about judicial reform in a later segment because
it's going to be coming back up.
We're going to tackle it, but it's good to see that there are three candidates for the Republican voters to consider down there, and
you got one with a heartfelt story of escaping communism and TV.
Yep.
You've got the young guy out of Lancaster that is, trying to blaze the trail himself, and then you've got Stubbs, who's a little bit more experienced, born and raised, kind of grown up in the community, local boy.
Country lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting race. Good luck to all those candidates.
All three good candidates, and I like that they were very civil in the debate. But
I think that says a lot. I think that kind of leadership is needed more than ever just in politics. Yeah. So
hopefully they can stay that way.
Yes.
Because that's difficult. Now, speaking of that,
let's go to the flip side of that coin. I tell you, social media warrior across the table here.
The mean girls.
You stirred it up with the folks north of the river.
We started up, evidently, from our little clip talking about swamp gas in York County. So you've got the two candidates north of the river, which we mentioned before.
And this is District 66.
Jackie and Michelle.
Yep, House seat that is occupied by our colleague David O'Neill, great guy.
Correct.
Served one term, decided not to seek re-election, and now we have two Republican candidates for that primary, Jackie Terabeel and Michelle Branning.
Yes. And, I've often said both are great ladies, both can lead. However, this not only the party getting involved, but because of Jackie being, I guess, with Moms for Liberty for so long, she's got this group that steps in and supports, same as within my race whenever I ran against Elizabeth Inns, those group of women. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff that I dealt with during my race from the women. And I dubbed them the Mean Girls because that's what it reminded me was the old Clueless reference or the Mean Girls movie and the way that they act. And it's just attack.
They are passionate and committed to
their candidate,
to the cause.
But I don't think that they understand how tacky it is to other people in the community.
And let me clarify for a second. When you and I spoke about this, and I can't remember if it was last episode or the prior one before that, what we discussed was
the party.
Listen, when you have multiple Republican candidates, okay? Take, for instance, when Gary Simrell decided to not seek re-election and basically retire from government service, and I threw my hat in the ring, another gentleman by the name of Barry Baker
threw his hat in the ring. And everyone at the onset, when filing closed, told me that, man, I think that, you work hard, you go around and knock doors. A lot of folks know you in the community, and you got a good shot at winning, right? Whereas Barry was attack. Barry was this guy from Chicago. He just, said a lot of... say it ain't so, Heath. Yankee politics? Hyperbolic. Say it ain't so. He just exaggerated. He was just very over the top, very abrasive. He's the one that says I had something to do with my son's death just so I could gain political fame. Yeah. So anyway... Yeah, do we got the donkey sound again? Even in that race, guess what did not happen? The local chairman of the local York County GOP, even when they saw that I was probably the best candidate, they didn't weigh in. They did not use their actual chairman platform email to send out bashing one candidate over another. They did not send an email to 100 people. And this was somebody still in their 20s? That this other guy, hey, Heath Sessions is the best candidate for us to consider. Don't even consider the other guy. He's a wacko, crazy guy. They didn't send an email like that. And I understood, right? Gary Simrell did not even weigh in publicly because he said, Heath, you've got Ralph's support. You've got Senator Clymer's support. You've got other people who can support you publicly. But because I'm the outgoing, I just want to respect the office. And I was like, classy move. I get it. Yeah. Right? So even like he understood as an outgoing guy. And Barry was the guy that constantly bashed. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So our issue was that the Republican Party, having two Republican candidates, needed to stay a neutral arbiter until the primary election was over and the voters decided. Right. That's all we're saying. I am not choosing one over the other, and I don't think you were either. But I am now. The Mean Girls and you, as you call them. Not just the Mean, I'll throw the South Carolina Freedom Caucus, whoever runs their social media, as part of the Mean Girls now. So is the Freedom Caucus supporting? They're supporting Jackie. Okay. So the Freedom Caucus candidates are going to be Jackie and Elizabeth Inns. So therefore, I am going to be supporting Michelle and David Martin. Okay. Full-fledged. Yeah. Because I'm tired of dealing with the dishonesty. Yeah. Truthfully. The spin. I don't listen to all folks running for office, whether it's in York County or Aiken County or Dorchester or Horry. Don't join a partisan. Do not join any other caucus than the party that you filed under until you get your feet underneath you. Period. Yeah. You do not need another leash around your neck. Okay. The leash around your neck is your district. Typically. Those are the people that you go down there to represent. You work for them. You don't work for anybody else. If you don't work for a caucus. Like, you work for the people in your district. We file as Republican, but I represent District 46. It's not Bloods and Crips. We ain't walking around with red bandanas and blue bandanas, and now you're trying to come in as the I don't even know another gang to kind of
And
throw
listen,
in there.
you and I have both spoken out about this. You and I have learned a lot in the last year and a half when it comes to the Freedom Caucus stuff. I am just leery of what's more important, the Freedom Caucus or your district. So
or just passing conservative legislation.
Any candidate that comes out here and throws out hyperbolic gibberish, right, to get the clicks or to get people misinformed. Because, folks, governing a state or doing your part of governing a state is nuanced. It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of things that go into making our decisions when we go to vote.
Well,
it's not just.
I just want to expose some of this. I mean, this was the actual comment by. This was after the Mean Girls, but the Freedom Caucus, South Carolina Freedom Caucus post coming on at like 12:30 at night. I'm dealing with a sick kid, and it says, "Wait, the Freedom Caucus has sown division because of what Michelle said. We need people that's not going to sow division like the Freedom Caucus has." And it says, "I think you mean we have exposed the stranglehold of special interest and actually forced Republicans to start reading bills and passing conservative legislation. I love how we're always talking about special interests and how we're always talking about the lobbyists. However, in South Carolina, you can't receive more than $1,000 from any one company or an individual. And while I come down here, I'm thinking lobbyist is a horrible word. Now, special interest, yes, I agree. But the special interests are people that are posting these scorecards. And it's the same reason why you will see members...
Don't even get me started on these scorecards.
Which is why you will see members of the Freedom Caucus sit at their desk and not choose yes or no because they disagree with how the scorecard's being written, but don't have the balls to hit yes or no. And we won't start into how to define a woman. But if you are sitting down there to make a decision, you're supposed to choose between those two. And you will see people that actually will not choose while they're sitting at their desk. And that drives me crazy more than anything. Because I'm not always going to make the right decision. But damn it, I'm going to make a decision. You know?
Right.
So I kind of come back at them and I said, I agree about the clueless part. So you think since day one in 2023, when the agenda was laid out, the caucus was just kidding with it? The agenda was set and passed. If the Freedom Caucus wants to take credit for it without being in the room, it would be no surprise to me. The sun comes up in the morning. Go ahead and take some credit there, too. This post is more about the local party following the likes of the Jeff Davis, the MySCGOP, than the Freedom Caucus on every issue. Oh, let's not forget the John Birch Society, too. You know, birds of a feather. And then some other, but it was just, and so the whole thing that they're pushing is that Branning, and honestly, you know, I'm endorsing her regardless of whether she did this or not, but they're just because of the Mean Girls and because, I mean, there's just too many things. The way the local parties jumped in, I mean, literally it's her against the world. So I'm going to jump in and try and help her out.
Yeah.
You know, does that mean she's going to win? Not necessarily, but you know what? We'll do a good job of getting the message out there. And
I'd still want to have candidates on this show where we give them 10 minutes, where we give them a couple questions and let them introduce themselves.
Here's the thing with the Mean Girls.
I didn't say Mean Girls. I said the candidates. So
I know, but the candidates have got to be part of the Mean Girls for the Mean Girls to be doing that.
Well, that
becomes the problem.
I'm not saying
if they weren't, then they would step up. If they truly were leaders and they truly had courage, they would step up and put a stop to it.
Well,
and their silence speaks volumes. If that was me and my own party sent out a message blasting Britt Blackwell whenever I ran for York County GOP, I would have literally said, this is wrong.
Correct.
A local party should not be getting involved into this race. However, a Mean Girl is going to sit there and say, I mean, what? You know, they're going to look at it their own little way. And it's funny. It's kind of the same thing with that Republican women's meeting that we went to. And they said, I'm running against 2 females at the time. And they're like, we're not telling anyone who to vote for. We don't endorse. However, we are called the Republican Women's Group. Like, what do you think that says?
Yeah. Again, man, I think in politics, a lot of things, for one thing, people can't take a joke, right?
Yeah.
And I do believe the person who said that, I was sitting at that lunch.
I think she was joking.
She was joking. But you were off at another event, I remember, because you actually
I got a text of the quote.
Yeah. And you text me, and
I'm like, did she just say this?
This is after I'd already gotten questioned by the person who said it, and I said, listen, I didn't text anybody. And,
Yeah, but those are just lines that you don't cross in a primary election. And I'm constantly getting attacked by the women's groups because it was like gossip.
Yeah.
It was that mean girl persona.
And again,
the supposed Christians in the room that are gossiping more than anyone else.
Yep. So to the mean girls out there, they probably outnumber our listeners of 2. But
dude, I got 4 phone calls this week of people saying, I'm your number 2 listener.
So we are not saying one candidate over another. What we're saying is the local party infrastructure, when you have more than one candidate, shouldn't put their finger on the scale.
Because what happens whenever, let's say Michelle wins this, do you think she's going to want to speak to the people at the local party? So
Correct.
then she's going to have her own party trying to get her out because they said she's a Democrat. She proved that she's got 14 years of voting record.
Yep.
They claim that she forced COVID vaccines. Well, no, she was chair of the school board whenever that happened. I'm sure people that want to challenge Helena Miller would say the same thing. They're just following the state law at
Correct.
that time. No one thinks that
They were just
James
following.
Burns,
Hey, wait a minute. They were following the health czar's dictates
which
for 2020.
Which even our governor pushing that. And,
I'm
but
kidding.
those things are just important. I mean, those things are just important. It's just trying to stay nonpartisan to ensure that you're going to have to work with it. And
Yeah. You got to be agnostic. If you are a part, and listen, for all of those folks who want to be a chair of a local party out there, just understand the responsibility of that means if you have more than one candidate, you have to
Stay
provide
impartial.
an environment and a platform for all candidates who have filed to come and speak, get questions, debate, whatever. Now, personally, you can go and post on your own Facebook if you want to, saying, I do not speak for others, but I'm supporting so-and-so.
Yeah.
That is fine.
You have your individual voice, but if you're doing it in the capacity of your role, that's where it becomes a problem.
And even that, if I was, hypothetically, if I was the chairman of the York County GOP, even if I liked Jackie, I would not go out and put on social media, even on my personal page. I would not go out and say, hey, I'm supporting Jackie in this race. I wouldn't do it.
But you might go out and door knock.
Or
you might fundraise for her.
I might personally off camera and off social media.
And you're not calling people saying, hey, I'm the chair of the party.
And I'm not vilifying the other candidate in public either.
Right.
I'm not doing that. I'm just saying people need to stick to this. If you support a candidate, or if you're door knocking or whatever you're doing to advocate for a candidate, talk about how badass your candidate is. That'll win you the election.
Right. And if all of these things are true that was being said, such as pushing a COVID vaccine, was that as a chair of a school board, you're announcing that any students want to get a COVID vaccine should go here to get them?
And
is
again,
that pushing it?
And again,
You know?
this is like, you can't play this Monday morning quarterback with this stuff, okay? And all I mean by that is, folks, COVID was a nutty time.
Yeah.
All right? So I remember
And some
March.
got it right, some got it wrong.
I remember March 2020. I literally, when they canceled school, I remember talking to my wife about, hey, we're going to have to go to homeschool. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that until they figure out this vaccine stuff. I am not going to lose a child.
Right.
Right? And this is March. This is in the first 2 weeks. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what the dangers, the risks are.
But you don't want to lose a child, and we're watching friends that are dying from COVID.
So now, I mean, it's 2024. We've got data, right? So you can't look at it through the same lens.
Right.
Folks, whether it was teachers, school board members, political leaders, whatever. I mean, for instance,
Some people like DeSantis got it pretty right.
President Trump. All right? President Trump shut the whole government down.
Yep.
Turned over, in effect, his authority to the NIH and Anthony Fauci. But guess what?
And gave Fauci an award on his last day of office.
Guess what, folks? Guess what? You're going to go vote for him.
Yeah.
A lot of y'all, one of y'all 2 listeners are going to vote for him.
But yet they'll bash.
And our local GOP is going to go vote for him.
Yeah.
They're not going to hold him to account for that. But he was trying to make the best decision possible with the information that he had at the time.
Correct.
Right? And again, Ron DeSantis and some other governors, our own governor, Henry McMaster, started reopening prior to other blue states because they started looking at the data, right? And they erred on the side of personal liberty and freedom and those types of things. On a national level, we didn't do it. And
Right.
Trump could have done it, but he didn't do it.
Right.
And so the same folks that are, man,
Well, I think he left it up to the states in that, but whenever it came to schools get federal funding. And they have the mandates, well, they're following the states. And whenever the states are saying this is the guidelines that we are following, it doesn't matter how many people come up there and speak. And I know from being on county council, it doesn't matter how many people come up there and speak. If you're being told this is what we can do legally and this is what we can't, you have to stick to it.
and I don't want to get into the COVID thing, but this got brought up
and
because
this wasn't
Michelle
a
Brandon, the
city
school
that was-
board,
yeah.
during COVID, and so they're trying to, I think, use that against this candidate. So,
Well, the other thing is saying raise taxes. Was that on because she was for the school bond referendum? And if that's the case, is that raising taxes because it's really, I mean, it's the citizens choosing, and
it's a bond, but you
referendum.
got to pay for it with the tax.
But it's a referendum. It's
Yeah.
the people choosing.
Yes.
It's not you doing it yourself.
Right.
And on the flip side, if you're going to say, well, you
Okay,
was
so-
against the referendum, then are you against education?
All right, so this is funny.
know?
We're talking about a Freedom Caucus-backed candidate north of the river in this race. The Freedom Caucus voted to raise taxes then
Yeah.
because they didn't vote for the budget where we cut and gave back $624 million
Oh, they're all playing victim whenever these ads are coming
in
out.
property taxes and income taxes, right?
Right.
So folks who did not vote for the budget voted for a tax increase on you. Just FYI. Y'all remember that. The Freedom Caucus voted against a budget that cut your taxes by $624 million.
Are you running those texts? Because that sounds a lot like them texts.
I am not running those texts. After a year and a half, I'm tired of the bull.
Yeah.
I want serious people
Well-
who want to govern this state and push it in a conservative direction. This political theater put on by some is a bunch of BS, and it wastes my time.
I think some of the political theater is going to come up this week, too. Because
For
of
sure.
Dawn Staley's comments.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to that national championship.
They did just win the national championship, but on the eve of the national championship,
Yep.
Dawn Staley, the coach of the female Gamecock ladies basketball team, which truthfully, they would all kill me in basketball.
Yeah.
No question about it. So I have no desire to play. But a reporter asked the question that should a trans person be able to play in the women's basketball? Now, I completely disagree with Dawn Staley. You know, I believe there's only 2 genders and a trainee's what's on my truck. But, you know, as far as her comment was that she says that if they identify as a woman, she doesn't have a problem with that and they should be able to play women's sports. I completely disagree. But immediately, like clockwork, everyone's got to jump in, get their talking points in about how this is so wrong. But then you start seeing it boil down to, I can't believe that we are spending taxpayer money because she works for a state university spewing her liberal ideals.
Yep. So in full context, she was asked about this, and she said, "I think women's sports are for women." That's what she said.
And if you identify as a woman.
And then the reporter followed up and said, "Well, what about the transgender, all this kind of stuff. And she said, listen, if you think you're a woman and you want to pursue your sports endeavors, have at it. And she said,
it's no secret that she's liberal anyway,
and
with
again,
some of the other comments
that
she's made.
Listen, I'm just like you. I disagree.
Right.
I do not feel, and I voted.
But what does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
Yeah, you and I both, I think we both voted to protect women's sports last year,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So that's state law. And
According to some, we chose not to prosecute doctors for castrating children.
Oh, boy. So if you are a biological male and you want to play women's sports, you cannot do it for the University of South Carolina because we have a state law that says you can't.
Right.
So
it doesn't matter what she thinks.
So listen, Dawn Staley coaches women's basketball, and she is giving you her personal opinion. And you know what that's protected by? The First Amendment, folks. Freedom of speech and expression and all those great things. So the folks who are coming out and criticizing her, who are the Freedom Caucus on social media,
who claim they're for freedom, but this becomes my problem. It seems like no one remembers whenever Dabo wanted to talk about Jesus and the left is attacking and saying we shouldn't be funding this. This is spreading his religion and everything else.
And conservatives came to his support and says he has freedom of speech and expression.
Right. But now we can take away the freedom of speech because we disagree with what they're saying.
Folks, your constitutional rights aren't at your convenience.
We don't want to get hired and fired based on our political beliefs.
This is ridiculous.
I would be unemployable
Listen,
at times.
There is a reason that freedom of speech and expression is the First Amendment. Yeah. I think we all want to champion the Second Amendment, but it's second. The first is freedom of speech and expression and all of those things. And Coach Staley has the right, the constitutional right to express herself. What she doesn't have is the constitutional right to a job, right?
Right.
So the University of South Carolina can make a decision there, but I don't see them making that.
I mean, truthfully,
again,
if she was fired for her own opinion,
Man, that's her
then I would be battling for her to be able to keep her job. This isn't right for you to have. I mean, you're getting
no.
And if the university doesn't want to hear it, then they should stop the question from being asked in the press conference.
By no means am I advocating to terminate or not extend a contract to the best
qualified person,
basketball coach in the nation.
The one that just brought another national championship.
I am not advocating that whatsoever.
However, if that Iowa girl wanted to come here, I mean,
this thing of, I want diversity of thought. I want diversity of beliefs. I want folks.
How dare you?
I know.
Rhino.
I know.
Call me
crazy. I want people to think differently than me.
You don't want us to
have
all
those
think like that George Orwell book.
I tell you, man. And I want to battle those ideas. I want to talk about policies that makes what to me is common sense conservative sense, right? And then I want to have those discussions with you and then be able to change your mind. And you say, you know what? If we did that, I could support it.
It goes back to that old saying of, I don't have to agree with what you were saying, but I will die for your right to be able to say it.
You know what so
many on the right have become the cancel culture lefty liberals.
It's contagious.
That they hate, and they don't even see it. That's what drives me crazy.
It's contagious. This cancel culture thing is contagious. Listen, I do not support or I would not personally go and take a knee or do any sort of disrespectful gesture intentionally during the national anthem or Pledge of Allegiance. I just wouldn't do it.
No.
But when Colin Kaepernick was doing it years ago.
I just chose not to watch the NFL.
Correct. But again.
My choice.
But you still believe that he had the right to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and then you also believe,
but
you also believe that the 49ers had the right to fire his ass.
He had. Well, I believe that
that's a private entity. They can make decisions that's best for the franchise.
It's my right to be a prick if I want to be.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not,
I
have the freedom to be as crass as I want, as blunt as I want.
I didn't like for one bit.
If you don't like it, I've got a good liberal tears Starbucks looking sticker that you can put on your car.
Yep.
And whether you're on the left or the right,
Coexist.
you can wear it.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So listen, I have met Coach Staley a few times. She won't remember who I am, right? I mean, I'm just another, no offense, state legislator in a suit, or whatever, when she comes to see us over at the State House or whatever.
I think you had to tell me who she was. I didn't know who she was.
But let's give credit where credit's due. She is the best women's college basketball coach
Yeah.
in the nation, right? And she has her personal opinions, and she's entitled to them. And I will fight tooth and nail that she has those rights.
Right.
And so should everybody else.
And it's different if you're...
And these jacklegs
Hold on. Now, let's say
on
this.
Twitter.
If you're going out there every press conference and you're doing something like Colin Kaepernick, where you are trying to use your platform and you're constantly pushing your social agenda continuously,
Then that is a discussion
different.
for her employer
Right.
and her.
Not being asked a question, and you could tell she didn't want to answer the question.
She even said, you really are asking this question on
Right.
the eve before we play. My team plays for the national
Yeah.
championship. Are you serious?
But I think in her mind, she thinks, man or woman, line them up. I'll take them all out. I mean, she's undefeated throughout the entire season.
Yeah. They're like 100 and something and 3
Right.
in the last 3 years. I mean, it's impressive, man. And so, again, let's bring in the political actors of Freedom Caucus and this, that, and the other, going on Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days, or Facebook. It's an election year. And folks, people who do this think you're stupid. And to me, that's insulting. All of us want to protect women's
Or they're
sports.
addicted to the going viral, and they're trying to catch the next wave.
And listen, it's a state law. We've already protected women's sports.
Well,
we
I mean,
have done it. And here's another thing.
we've
we
already-
have candidates out there right now who are running to protect women's sports. And I'm like, that shows that person is uninformed. They have not
Yeah.
done their homework. We did that last year.
Yeah.
Either update your message, or I'm going to start really jamming you up on social media or this podcast, because we have a candidate who went out and started saying, I'm going to protect women's sports.
Are you talking about the one that goes by a doctor but's not a medical doctor?
I'm not. All I'm saying is it drives me crazy that people misinform their potential voters, and they're doing it intentionally. That candidate knows we passed Protect Women's Sports last year. They know it.
Right.
They
were there.
They know it. They were there for the bill signing. But to go out and keep saying it in this election cycle is disingenuous. And that should tell you something.
Yeah.
That should tell you something. Listen, if I make a mistake and I'm running for
It
re-election,
tells you that whatever that poll said was the great talking points on a national level, that's what we should go with.
people should be.
I mean, whatever they ran against me, the number one issue was the border for a state house rep.
Oh, boy. I mean, unless it's the Savannah River we're talking about.
Oh, no, I literally had people at the GOP meeting tell me, but you don't know how many illegals wash up on our shores. I was like, in Myrtle Beach or what? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, they're wearing
Like,
Crocs with
we
white
can't
ankle
control
socks.
what the federal government and those true border states are doing.
Yeah.
But we're not having people float to South Carolina. And there may be some, I could be wrong. There are a lot of
Yeah.
Russian, Ukrainian sounding people in Myrtle Beach, but I don't think they're floating there.
Yeah, so, I mean, just put a button on that. While you and I can, again, personally disagree with Coach Staley, we still will fight to protect her constitutional right of
Right.
freedom of speech and expression.
I prefer more of a Dabo,
Right.
truthfully. I don't think that Dabo is the greatest head coach whenever it comes to play calling. I think he is a great motivator of men, and I think he's a great builder of character and trying to instill Christian values.
Yep.
And
Coach Staley
as-
is a big Christian.
right, and that with whatever she is trying to push, I,
mean,
don't
she literally,
believe that
in the
she's
post-game,
pushing it.
In the post game, after beating Caitlin Clark in the Iowa Hawkeyes, she literally broke down crying and
Yeah.
literally said, you know, I basically talking
Gotta
about
thank God.
yeah, and how all glory be to him because he closed the door on that team last year in the semifinals, undefeated, and they lost in the Final Four, and she didn't understand it, and it tested her faith, and she talks about that. She's been talking about that all year, and she said, I see it now. I get it. To
appreciate it.
And to see, God reveal himself to her and that team in that way, that's awesome, man. Like, that's what it's about. So yeah, while you can personally disagree, it doesn't make her, a bad person. It doesn't make her someone that, I don't know what the Freedom Caucus is even saying on Twitter about defunding the university.
I don't know if that was actually freedom. And to be fair.
Oh, no. It was. It was that guy, Evan.
Okay.
Because him and Slick went back and forth.
Yeah. Well, and like I said before, my problem is not always about Freedom Caucus members. It's about whoever runs their social media.
Yeah. And again,
whether that's a member or whether that's the Evan kid that runs campaigns that kind of does their stuff.
Wait a minute. Wasn't he running Timmons' campaign?
No, he's running Adam Morgan's campaign.
Well, he is now. But I think he was a consultant for Timmons prior to that.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. Slick brought him out on that. Anyway. So, folks,
didn't Slick run?
Don't be fooled.
Didn't Slick run the other Morgan's campaign?
Yes, I think so. Don't be fooled by this issue. All right, this literally is like, I wouldn't call it a bait and switch, but it feels like a carnival sort of thing where you put the little ball underneath the coconut shell and you.
It sounds like a good talking point tomorrow up at the well.
So this is literally going to be, hey, we need to protect women's sports. We already have state law. Shut up. And we think that someone who disagrees with us shouldn't have First Amendment protections.
But
that's what this is about.
If you don't think that's going to happen, why don't we just look at the budget? Whenever we're talking about defunding Planned Parenthood because they're going to give abortions, and yet we passed a heartbeat bill already.
Correct.
So are they telling you the truth? Are we funding abortion? It doesn't matter how much money you get to Planned Parenthood. In South Carolina, it's still illegal once there's a heartbeat.
Some folks care about political office more than the truth. And you should run away from those people.
There's lots of them.
Last issue, man. Did you find that $1.8 billion?
Loftus Gate.
Hey, at least it wasn't a deficit of $1.8 billion that we didn't know about. At least it's $1.8 billion that we found or came to light.
I heard that this was going to be an issue months ago, and I didn't question because I got too big of a mouth. Like, if you don't want something said, you probably shouldn't say it to me.
Yeah.
And that goes for anybody out there. One of the things about trying to be transparent is I'm not very good at keeping secrets. So once I heard there was an issue, I was like, don't tell me anything else. Like, I'll deal with it whenever it comes up. Like, I don't need to misconstrue the message and get people riled up whenever I don't know what's going on.
And again, that's what we talked about offline, off camera, was just those issues. This $1.8 billion, or at the time I thought it was 1.5 in an account somewhere, and it was sort of a finger pointing thing between the comptroller general and the treasurer, and folks were just trying to figure it out. But so our state treasurer Curtis Loftus came before the Senate Finance Subcommittee this past week, and if you want to go look at all 3 or 4 hours of it, you can go to
it was pretty brutal.
The State House app and stream it online, which I did while sitting in the hospital.
Now, but the thing is please explain the difference between the treasurer and the comptroller general, who was removed last year.
Yep. So, as our state treasurer, Curtis Loftus, said multiple times to this Senate subcommittee, the treasurer is basically the investment side of a bank, whereas the comptroller general is the retail side of the bank. And in, I think, better terms, the way you understand it is the treasurer is the one who invests our state's money. The comptroller general is the one who accounts for it.
Right.
So you have an accounting side and you have an investment side.
So the DEI stuff, Loftus is, I'm just kidding.
That is correct.
It's been taken care of.
If you hear that state pension funds are being used for a DEI fund.
Now, it wasn't DEI. What was the term?
No, ESG.
ESGs.
Yeah. Yes. the state
Environmental,
treasurer
social
is the
grid.
person to go talk to.
Right.
If you come with,
You don't
know,
want money going to BlackRock. He's the one who's not going to be.
He's
or
the one you need
choose
to talk
whether
to.
it goes there.
Yep. And so, you know, when I heard about this early in the session, obviously from the testimony and the conversation that went back and forth between Senator Grooms, Goldfinch, McElveen out of Sumter. So this back and forth between the Senate subcommittee and our treasurer, basically an account was set up by the treasurer, but then it's got to be numbered or something by the comptroller general. And what it sounds like is the former comptroller general, I don't know what he was doing, you know? And so it seems like our current comptroller general in the state treasurer's office.
There's kind of a reason he's not in office anymore.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make heads or tails of what's been done for the last decade.
Well, it sounded like they were putting a lot of the blame on Loftus, and Loftus was taking it as a lot of the blame.
Oh yeah. So and again, you can listen to this yourself on
The State
watching the
House
video.
will.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so I think back the Halloween email that Comptroller General Gaines, I believe, sent out was trying to figure out this account 0993. Those are the last four digits of it. They referred to it a lot. Had a surplus amount of 1.8, give or take.
Do we call it the Leatherman account?
Yeah.
That's all I'm mentioning.
Oh, stop. $1.8 billion in it. And folks are just trying to figure out what this was for.
And we've got to figure out where it came from before we can decide to know what to do with it. Because if it came from businesses, that's where it needs to be returned to. If it came from homeowners, that's where it needs to be returned to.
Well, and so Senator Goldfinch, you know, he brought up a good point. And he asked our treasurer, he said, Treasurer Loftus, could some of this be federal money that we owe interest on? And he said, I don't know, Senator. He said, but could it be? And he goes, yeah. And he said, oh, damn. So Senator Goldfinch is like, so wait a minute. Some of this money we need to pay the federal government the interest on because it's just sitting in the account bearing interest.
Yeah.
And those are the questions.
Now South Carolina gets charged with tax fraud.
And so those are the questions that the treasurer couldn't answer. And again, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. The state treasurer is what it sounded like after listening to, and I didn't listen to all of it because it sort of started getting redundant because to me, it seemed the senators were going hard and fast at the treasurer's office, trying to hold him to account. And the treasurer's office, or the state treasurer, was basically saying, listen, I'm basically your investment banker. I'm not the accountant.
You need to be questioning the comptroller general.
Correct. And for whatever reason, you know, info, I don't know, they didn't believe them. And so when we get back this week, definitely going to be checking that out, trying to figure out for myself, like, you know.
And I don't pretend to understand
what's going on.
About
it sounds like to me a dysfunctional marriage where you might sit around and have dinner, but nobody's talking. And the treasurer and the comptroller general are not communicating. And I don't know why, but that does not serve South Carolina.
maybe because you got a Democrat comptroller general and a Republican.
I don't know why, and I don't care.
Yeah.
They work for the state of South Carolina. Do your job, right? You have to communicate with the treasurer, and treasurer, you got to communicate with the comptroller general because y'all got to report to the General Assembly about what's going on. And right now, we're uninformed. We're flying in the dark here. So, how
are we supposed to do a budget?
A lot more to get to on that. And we'll keep the audience, we'll keep the two listeners posted. So we were just talking about off air about the reel on the shoes and the beach and the Hey Dudes and Crocs, ankle socks, all that kind of stuff. And we were all just sharing a good laugh about it. And it got me thinking, man, Ben got out of the hospital, got him back home. I had to go hop on a plane, run up to DC for a work thing. And, man, on the way back, because I had to rush get a plane ticket like within 24 hours to make my scheduled flight and all that kind of stuff, my plans. I got a crappy return flight. So instead of going Reagan direct back to Charlotte, which there's a lot of flights doing that, I had to find a Delta flight that took me to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Charlotte. And so, I tried to fix it when I got there on Friday to return to Charlotte and couldn't do it, so I had to do the whole connecting flight. So you can imagine when you book a flight on Expedia, you can't pick your seat. And so when so just on the return flight, when I go to check in, it says, cannot give you a seat assignment, check with the gate when the flight opens.
I think it should put the person's weight for each seat
on
the plane, so that way they can balance it out, and you can know who you're sitting in between.
And listen, man, when you get your seat cannot be assigned, wait till the flight opens at the gate, that's just a bad omen.
Yeah.
Try to reschedule that flight, But no, so anyway, so I get up there, get to the ticketing agent, and I said, hey, I'm on the 4 o'clock back to Atlanta. Can I go ahead and get my seat assignment? I got this little piece of paper that says I got to see you. And they're like, oh, yeah, it prints me out 15B. And I'm like, damn it.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. And so literally I'm on there first, and I'm sitting there. No one's at the window. No one's at the aisle. And I'm like, sweet. If I can work this to where it's just 2 of us in this, I'll move to the aisle or the window and be good. Nope. Got 2 ladies on both sides of me. And I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm the bigger guy in this aisle. And Gen Pop airline seats are not for regular sized people. I mean, we can all agree.
So you needed both armrests.
Yeah, man. And so, what is the general consensus? If you're in the middle seat, I tried to take the back part of the armrest to give them the front half. You know what I mean?
That's what I usually do.
And try to negotiate that, but,
I try to catch like one bone just on the edge, just kind of hold it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to reserve
Or
it.
either I'll put my table down and kind of put my arms on the table in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, trying to be, growing up in the South, man, you're always opening doors and this, that, and the other, and I got...
Here you are being the bully talking about, I got my room.
I got an older lady, I got an older lady at the window, and I got a younger lady who was she was pursuing a master's degree, actually in political management at George Mason. Yeah, I didn't even know that was you can get a master's degree in political management. But anyway, a younger girl on the aisle seat, and so I'm trying to give them the opportunity to take that armrest, but they just gave it to me. They seated. But I just didn't know what was your, there's got to be rules.
People just look at me and it's like, yeah, whatever he's going to do.
Hey, I have been in other situations where I'm the smaller of 3 dudes in an aisle.
Yeah.
And it is like.
Now, usually my go-to, especially if I know if it's women, I'm not even going to attempt to put my arms up there. I'm going to let them decide what they're going to do first.
Yeah.
But I'll pull down the table if I need to.
But
and sit there and just hold my phone with my arms straight out if I need to. So I'm not comfortable on a plane anyway.
So, and that's another thing when it comes to airline or air flight etiquette.
Now, movies, stadiums, I will elbow somebody in a heartbeat. Oh, yeah? Give me my room.
So here's another thing. I'm on the flight heading up to D.C., and I've got a sweet old lady next to me. And when I'm flying up to D.C., I'm in the aisle seat. Well, I got a movie recommendation from a coworker that said, you need to watch the GameStop movie. Have you seen the movie Dumb Money?
I haven't.
With Seth Rogen, and basically it tells the story of GameStop.
Yeah.
Which everyone I hope is, out of the 2 listeners, I hope you're familiar with what happened with GameStop a year or 2 ago, or whenever it was. So I decided to download that movie and watch it. Well, I guess my AirPods aren't fully insulated because, and again, unbeknownst to me, but I hit play on the movie, and the opening scene is, some rich hedge fund dude having a pool party, and the music is WAP. And I'm not even going to say what the acronym stands for, but the two listeners know. And so that song is playing in the background. And folks, it's pretty crude.
That old lady looking at you.
And I got AirPods in, man. And I go, oh no. Just turning the volume down. The looks.
She just heard the sounds.
The looks. I was just like.
It depends how old she was.
She
just heard that was hip hop. Period. Started looking at you.
Man,
funny. She's like, "Is this guy wearing a blazer and a master shirt, listening to hip hop?"
Yeah, right. It's like if you watch Wolf of Wall Street on an airline. Some of those scenes of the pool parties and the extravagance and the drugs and whatever. And it's just like. Listen, I don't.
Someone walks by and sees them throwing a midget at a.
Yeah, a Velcro board. Yeah,
that's you.
Listen, I don't condone this type of behavior. It's just a movie recommendation.
Oh goodness!
But so I tell you, life throws you curveballs, and you either got
that is wrong.
So anyway, well, next week, man, we got crossover on Wednesday.
No, on Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday, the 10th?
Yes, the 10th is crossover.
Wow, you and I are both like scrambling to our calendars.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, then we're gonna have a busy week.
No, that is Wednesday.
Yeah.
10th. I thought 9th was no, 10th is Wednesday. That is crossover.
Yeah. So my itemized the medical transparency itemized billing that comes up Tuesday.
I wonder if we'll have any cool amendments going in before.
Yeah, I don't know.
The 10th.
But I do know the Senate's working on getting crossed over tort reform. They were working on that while we were on furlough, so we'll update the two listeners.
That one sounds like it's actually a solution. So it sounds like something I can support, as long as it doesn't
I think
get
you and I
changed
both
too
support.
much.
You and I both did not. And again, I understand legislation a lot of times is the act of compromise. I still did not like the liquor liability that we passed out of the House.
I just didn't see it as really accomplishing.
Even though I wasn't there, I think you and Ray Felder
were the only two no's.
My name would have been lit up red.
The funny thing was I think it was SC Venue Crisis.
Yes.
They come on and said something. And by the way, they said they are the number 2 listener.
Yeah.
I think it was. But I was like, well, hopefully I explained why I didn't support it.
Yeah.
And I love the quote. It was like, yes, it's just blowing air up the skirt. I was like, yes, I think that is exactly what I said.
We got to figure out who that group is. So the Senate's working on tort reform. They're going to get it over. The Senate also passed their version of judicial reform. Mm-hmm. So I think that's good news for all advocates and fans of some sort of judicial reform. I don't care if you want full like throw the bathwater, the kitchen sink of the bathwater with the baby, or if you just want some sort of progress in the area of reforming how we elect our judges here in South Carolina.
I'm fine.
Whatever your flavor is.
If it's a step, I'm fine, but if it's supposed to be pitched as the solution, I'm not.
No. I think what we can do though is because the Senate has passed it over before crossover, we can use that as the vehicle to strike and insert what our ad hoc came up with, which I think is a stronger reform bill for the judicial.
Now, some still will not like it because it does have legislators on the JMSC. And yes, you do only want really lawyers on the JMSC because they're the ones who understand the law.
And again, folks, we have state ethics laws. So, and again, I'm not saying that's a catch-all, right? But there are still laws against you, as if you were a lawyer legislator, stacking the deck in your favor. So, and again, I don't think it answers all of the innuendo that goes on.
No.
I believe that if you are a lawyer legislator and you choose to take an appointment on JMSC, you don't practice in front of that judge.
You should recuse. Well,
or
every judge is going to go through there.
Or don't vote.
But every judge is going to go through there.
Yeah. But if it's a Spartanburg and you're a JMSC member out of Colleton County, you're not going to practice in Spartanburg.
Well, we don't want people just recusing themselves constantly.
No. You just can't vote on the at-large seats and some of the statewide stuff. But that's a better. You just don't.
I would be fine with the JMSC doing it if they would recuse themselves from actually voting on the floor. If you're going to appear before, no different than us. If there's the possibility of a contract coming up, you've got to recuse yourself.
Yeah, correct. I think
you can't just apply to work for the company that might bid on the contract. They don't allow you to do that.
Yeah, no, I think all members need to recuse themselves if there's a potential for conflict of interest.
Correct. Stay above reproach.
That's right. So if that's the standard, that's something that in my mind would be the perfect icing on the cake to what the ad hoc committee came up with.
Yeah.
I like a lot of where our House bill in that committee came, like those 16 suggestions. I liked where those ideas came from and what made that bill, I think, the strongest out of the Senate version or the House version.
Well, I think from the Fitz News article I was reading, Representative White seems to think it was intentionally delayed from coming forward. And I don't believe that. It was a long, drawn-out committee that we tried to address.
I didn't read that article.
I think I want to say it was maybe today.
Listen, all respect to Joe White, but any article with the headline saying that we need 169 more of these guys. Listen, folks, if there was an article that said we needed 169 more of Representative Sessions,
you might want to run away.
Yeah, cut your subscription, okay? Because that is something that is
there ain't but one Be Jeezy for Sheezy.
Yeah. No. I want a diversity of ideas, and I want all those to get brought to the fore, and let's battle it out. And iron sharpens iron. I do not want.
If we made everyone wear Hey Dudes across the state, no one would be happy.
So hopefully we can do something with that judicial reform.
Oh, we'll have so much coming at us this week.
Yep. And hey, and let us not forget, we then elect judges on the 17th, the following week. So crossovers this Wednesday. The following Wednesday,
some of them still been hanging out.
Hey, joint session, vote on judges. And that is going to be awesome.
Are we going to vote on them without any?
Yeah, we're going to vote on them.
If the bill isn't through.
Yeah, we're voting on
I
them.
thought Clymer was holding it up until we had reform.
Nope. We're good to go. We already got the resolution over from the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know what's the funny thing? I think that's during Senate's budget week. So literally, they're going to have to pause their budget deliberations.
I'm sure they don't care about that.
Come across the
it
lobby.
Gets them a break.
And show us how the Senate does it. And let's start electing judges on the 17th.
Oh, man.
So I tell you, it's going to be action-packed April.
Yeah. And you've got so many races coming. I think one of the things, what was it, an article I was reading, I think Freedom Caucus has 36 challengers against other Republicans.
Yeah.
Or is that just running for seats? I don't know. I could be misquoting. But just as the Freedom Caucus says, Republican caucus is recruiting people against them, you got Freedom Caucus recruiting people against Republican caucus members. And so there's a lot of contested races. Some of them multiple people. I think Carla in Horry County has, 3 people running against her?
Yeah. Yep. And, I mean, there's a Senate race that I saw had, I want to say 4 people in the Republican primary. It might be Senator Garrett may be the senator I'm thinking of over around Aiken, Western Lexington County. And I think there's 3 or 4 Republicans in that primary. And then there's 2 or 3 Democrats. I mean, hey, but you know what?
This was my first time. I have been in 6 elections.
Yep.
And I've only been elected twice. But I've never lost.
Yeah. Undefeated, baby.
So I was having multiple people in a primary, then a runoff, and then the general.
See, God's a fair
guy. And I had
guy.
it on both sides.
God's a fair guy.
Or both times. But This is the first time that I do not have a challenger. Now, I guess if that sheriff's office opens up, I don't know if it opens up for everything else.
Hey, don't get your hopes up, bud. You still got to work it. You're still going to come knock doors.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely knocking doors. I'll just might be north of the Mason-Dixon River knocking doors.
The hell. But yeah, so and like I said, we've got a busy few weeks coming up. And this is gonna be
a lot of reading.
This is gonna be great.
The only thing I really hate is whenever we go to conference and the way things come back from conference and you don't see it.
Oh,
It's
right.
disgust.
Unless you go to the desk and ask for the copy.
We've got to change that.
I
mean,
would-
if we have to put amendments up on the board, we've got to change. There needs to be a red line of this is what the changes were from whenever we sent it to conference.
yeah, correct.
I mean, it should be that simple.
Well,
Some of the things like the constitutional carry. Do I believe an 18-year-old should be able to carry? Yes. But I also believe that if you're under 21, having a CWP is not necessarily a violation of your rights to be able to carry.
yeah.
You know, just little things. So whenever you go to conference and you come back and then everything's put in, then it's too hard to keep up with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I agree. You and I talked about that when that Constitutional Carry Conference Committee report came back. No one can see it. I went up to the desk, asked for it, and you were like, where the hell did you get this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I just went up and asked Charles. But yeah, I wish there was
But
least...
meanwhile, that's the everything. So you're trying to read the bill and the amount of time it takes to vote, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
If it's a red line, then you can.
Yeah, I wish there was some sort of, like we got to give the public 24 hours notice before we have a hearing on a bill or something like that. I wish we had that for members to where we could review that conference report before
Actually voting on it.
Yeah, so.
I agree.
But anyway, man, we got Come See Me coming up here in Rock Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that's going to be
Favorite time of
fun.
year.
Yeah, fireworks and
When does it kick off?
this week, right?
Does it? Is it already?
This week and next week.
No.
Yeah, parade kicks off.
Tailgate party is on the 20th, so that means I guess
Yeah, but the
kicks
parade's
off
Friday,
on
right?
Thursday. Yeah, on Thursday.
Come See Me parade's Thursday afternoon,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
I've got to speak at Northwestern High School twice on Thursday and South Point High School on Friday. And Heritage starts on Friday.
Oh, does it?
No, that's whenever we're supposed to let them know if we want tickets by.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be going down.
I don't know if we can. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make it because
We'll
that's
be in session.
Supposedly, that's when it's our budget week.
Oh, no.
So yeah. So it just depends. But no. It's not Heritage this week.
Next week.
We got the Masters this week.
Yeah.
So you got any? You betting on anybody at the Masters?
Dude, I have never watched an entire round of golf in my life.
Really?
I had tickets to the Masters whenever Tiger Woods come back that day.
Oh man.
And I turned them down because it was my son's first birthday. And I still give my wife hell about how I missed a piece of history. And my son doesn't even remember me being there for his first birthday.
Here's a funny footnote. 1997, I'm at Carolina. Friday night, out college partying, whatever. Got a buddy says, hey, man, we got an extra pass to the Saturday round at the Masters. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, a buddy just bailed on us last second, and he don't want to go. And I said, I'll go. He goes, okay, I'll come get you. And but we're going to leave early. And I said, that's fine. And he said, all right, come get you about 8:30. I said, 10:04. Man, I wake up like any normal college kid after a Friday night at noon. And my roommate's nowhere to be found. Later on that night, that buddy, my roommate, and two other dudes come like falling into my apartment. And I'm like, where y'all been? Like, man, we've been at the Masters, man. Tiger moving day. Looks like Tiger's going to win. This is when Tiger wins his first Masters jacket.
Oh, wow.
In 97.
Man, you're old.
And hey, and so my buddy pulls me aside. He's like, hey, man, you're not going to believe this. We're in the kitchen getting a beer. And he goes, man, we came up here. We had a mimosa, had a Bloody Mary, then came over, kicked in your door. It was your roommate's door. And he goes, both of y'all are white dudes with brown hair, man. By the time he rolled out of bed and we were like, come on, we're going to the Masters. He was like, we were going to feel like real, jerks if we disinvited them and they came and woke you up. And I'm like, no, man, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
All right. So I
It would have
missed.
been even better if they'd said, oops, wrong door.
So again, whether that's the truth or not, who cares? It's a great story. I missed Tiger's first Masters
Win.
because of that.
And I missed his last one.
Hey, 2019, I'm there at the Masters. So I'm there for the week. And my wife back in January, prior to that April of 2019, says, hey, Mom wants to go to a spring break family trip to Disney. And I said, I'm game. That's fine. I'll take it off. But you just can't do it during the Masters weekend. That's fine. She goes, okay. Books it. So my wife and my mother-in-law are making Disney trip plans. And I'm thinking, and my wife even thought, the Disney trip was going to be the week of the Heritage.
Yeah.
Well, come about into March of 2019, my wife realizes, nope, spring break and the Disney trip is the Saturday of the Masters to the Saturday of the Heritage. And I said, honey, I told you I was going to be at the Masters. I got to, it's a business thing. And she goes, well, I mean, we've got Disney passes. I mean, you just got to leave.
What?
I'm like, honey, literally, this is like a business trip. We take our bigger customers here to and yeah. So guess what I had to do?
Leave Augusta? And go
I
to
had to
Orlando?
leave Augusta the Friday evening after, and Tiger was a couple shots off the lead. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
So I would have been going that Sunday, I think it was.
So I left Augusta in 2019 after the Friday round, met my wife in Columbia, and kept on going to Orlando that night.
Oh.
And had to watch it from the condo around Disney World while he won.
I swore I was.
So it's hilarious. My Masters experience got bookmarked by the ones I missed.
For any businesses hiring out there, if you send your employees to the Master once a year, let me know.
Yeah. You should come. But yeah, that concludes this episode. Man, we got a busy month.
Well, we missed Carolina Cup. That was one of the things I swore I was going to go to. That and then Heritage coming up. So I'm going to miss both of those. But those were two things I swore I'd do this year.
I tried to go last year, and
I mean, they're not like the inauguration. It don't happen every year.
But special thanks to Comer Distributing and 742 North for being sponsors of the podcast.
And Slow Play. I actually really like this lavender.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, I lied. I had more than one.
It actually
but
is
it grows
really
on you, man.
Good, man. And it's a seasonal special beer just for the Yo Co Trail. But you can just walk in there and get it. But it does look like a purple Powerade or something.
Yeah, just drink it out of the can.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise that. It's a large growler.
But yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one.